Hi, I'm Chef Chad. Welcome to my kitchen. Tonight I'm going to be cooking Chateaubriand, which is from the beef tenderloin that I broke down on the very first episode. So I'm trying to use that up. So the Chateaubriand, if you remember, was the large center cut piece from the beef tenderloin, and it's about 2.5, maybe 3 pounds. I've got my pan nice and hot. I've used a little bit of beef fat and some olive oil. The beef fat is just because I had it. It was rendered when I had an abundance of time. And so that's nice and hot. I've got some garlic and shallots there. And I'm just going to drop this in there with that sear. I want to get a good sear all the way around it. So I'm going to start with this. You can hear it sizzling. The smell is quite good. There's already the beef smell from the tallow or beef fat. And I'm just going to let this sear kind of all the way around. And then I'm going to remove that from the pan, and I'm going to be making the sauce. So some of the things that are going to be going into the sauce, I've got some fresh thyme, fresh rosemary, fresh garlic, shallots, some part of a portobello mushroom, but I've also got some wild mushrooms. I've got some morels and some chanterelles. I've got some clean oysters. I believe there's also some pheasant back in there, and a couple others. Some of those I've bought, the morel mushrooms I actually found last spring and have them in the freezer. And I go to the Eastern Market in Detroit, and there's Good Earth mushrooms. They also have a booth at the Pontiac, Oakland County Farmers Market. And it's always fun to get some wild mushrooms from them and to cook with them. So I've gone about 3/4 the way around on this. Try and get some of the good stuff. Some of the shallots and garlic are starting to brown a little bit. A little bit further. Let that go. While that is finishing, I'm going to grab some red wine that I want to use to finish off the sauce. Also, that can help anything that may have cooked to the pan is going to get released by that. This is a non-stick pan, so there's not much of that going to be there. But it'll also, the acidity from the wine will melt into the oil, and they'll kind of combine and make sort of a beginning sauce. I've also got the beef gummy glaze. It's been in the fridge since yesterday. And if you look at it, you can see that it's very, very gelatinous. So it's a very good base for a sauce, full of all that flavor from cooking all day. So I'm going to take this off now. Just a quick sear. Put that over here. Give this a quick little stir, and then I'm going to add the rest of my garlic, the rest of my shallots. So about 1/4 cup of shallots altogether, maybe 1/2 tablespoon of garlic altogether. I think it was 3 cloves, but could be big cloves, could be little cloves, so 1/2 tablespoon is about right. I'm going to let that go. I'm going to pull my mushrooms over off camera just for a second, while I just give them a quick chop over here. I want to have some chunks of tomato or mushrooms in my sauce. Watching those sizzle. So now these are just starting to color a little bit. Add all these mushrooms, I'm going to let those simmer. So once these have simmered for a little bit, I'm going to add the red wine. I'm going to add the beef demi glaze. I'm going to add my Chateaubriand back to the sauce. I'm going to put the whole thing in the oven for about 20 minutes. So I'm going to let this go and fast forward a little bit while I do that. And then I'll be back to talk about the side dishes. Okay, so this has been watching. I added the thyme and I added some rosemary sprigs in there. I also added about 1 cup of red wine. So that is almost evaporated. It's becoming what the French say demi-sec. It's almost dry. So it's very, very close. So at this point, I don't want it to burn anymore, and I don't want it to stick to the pan as it burns, because that was what the wine was for. So, got about a quart of my beef demi-glace. I'm going to add about half of that, so about 2 cups of the demi-glace. You can see how thick that is from cooking. I'm going to let that melt. There is some gelatin in there from all the cooking down of everything. The beef broth that I used was a beef stock that I used from the jar, if you watched the video. And so that actually had a lot of natural gelatin in it, as well as what little I got from the silver skin from the beef tenderloin, which wouldn't be a whole lot, but you know, there's still a little bit of gelatin in there. And as that thickens down, as the water evaporates, you end up sort of a thick, almost jello. If you've ever cooked a Thanksgiving turkey or a whole chicken, you know, as that juice sits there after a while, it kind of looks like meat jello. So now, again, I got this beautiful sauce, really good. I'm gonna kind of move everything out to the sides of the pan a little bit. I'm gonna put this in there. I'm gonna rotate it a little bit, get some of that sauce on there. My oven is pretty close to 350. It's almost completely preheated. So I'm gonna put that in there right now. Add these juices from the partially cooked meat. I don't wanna waste anything. I want all that color and flavor of everything just to make this a fabulous dinner. I would tell you my family doesn't eat like this every night, but they kind of sort of do. So I'm gonna put this into the oven. It's at 350. And then I can start my side dishes. So back here I have some dark homemade chicken broth that's coming to a boil. And it's about 3.5 cups. To that, I'm going to add 1 cup of white grits. These are Carolina Plantation grits. I bought them online. If they're grits, it's white corn and you're from the South. If you call it polenta, it's yellow corn and you're Italian. So they're basically the same thing. It's a liquid of some sort. You put the cornmeal, yellow cornmeal or polenta meal or the grits in there and you let that cook. Stir it. I'm going to be stirring it off and on here while I continue with the other things. And then I'm going to be adding probably a little bit of salt because when I make my homemade stocks and broths, I don't add any salt to it because I can always add that later. So again, if you're using a store-bought, you obviously would want to watch the salt and wait until the end before you add any. So that's going pretty good. I have some heavy cream, some butter, and some Parmesan cheese I'm going to be adding to that. And then up front, I've got some broccoli crowns, and I'm just gonna put those right in the pan. I also have half of a lemon. I'm just gonna kind of squeeze that juice on there, and then I'm gonna throw the whole lemon right in there with that. And I'm gonna add about a half a cup of water. So here's the water. And I'm not gonna do anything with that now. I'm gonna move it to the back burner now that I've got room over here. And once the polenta is almost done, which is going to take probably about another 10-15 minutes, which is probably how long it's going to take my Chateaubriand to cook up to the desired temperature. I'll be checking that. So I'm going to fast forward this again, and you'll see me stirring, and hopefully I can do some subtitles and stuff as I add stuff during the fast forward. Okay, and we're back. As you can see, the polenta the grits have kind of cooked through. We're gonna be adding some to that in just a minute. I'm gonna move the broccoli over here, turn that on to high. I want that to start boiling so it will steam. I'm gonna put the lid on it. And then I'm going to take this out of the oven right now. I did turn it on to broil temporarily towards the end, just so it kind of gives some color to the top. I have this on. It's at about 110, 115 in the middle. I want that to continue to cook. So I'm gonna let that get just a little bit hotter, and then I'm gonna turn that off and let that rest. I do want to kind of swirl it around a little bit. I got a little bit darker on top than I anticipated because of the broiling. However, those mushrooms have been absorbing that sauce and flavoring the sauce, and I think everything is still going to be very, very good. So what I'm going to do back here to the polenta, it's like, as you can see, the consistency of it, it's pretty much done. I'm going to add about a 1/4 cup of shredded Parmesan Reggiano, about 2 tablespoons of butter, and then the rest is some heavy cream. So it's about a quarter cup of heavy cream in there. So we're gonna let that stir in there. I'm gonna turn that, make sure that's just on the very low setting so that that will continue to cook. Fun safety tip: when you bring a hot pan out of the oven, especially under a broiler, keep the hot pad there because you will grab it accidentally. Not that I've ever done that. But, so this is starting to steam, starting to get some bubbles in there. Oops. And once that is going, this will all come together and be a wonderful dinner. Now, just in case someone that I know is watching this and said, hey, wait a minute, I know when you filmed this. Weren't you on a diet? Why are you eating all that cream and butter and the grits? So, I am not. I am eating riced cauliflower with just a little bit of the demi-glace in there that I'm going to put back here on low. And that's going to be my side dish. So we have that and the broccoli and the beef and just a little bit of sauce. So I am sticking to my lean and green diet. So this here, I can just let that finish. That's set. I'm gonna get a spoon so I can sample it. Check the seasoning. It probably needs a little bit of butter. There's salt. A little bit. Adding about a half a teaspoon of salt. Stir that in, and that will be all ready to go. Also, put a little bit of salt on the broccoli. That is starting to boil. Put the lid on it. Generally, I'm just going to count to about 15 in my head. Once I've done that, I'm going to turn it off. It'll still be hot from the bottom. It'll continue to steam, and that should be just perfectly steamed and ready to go as soon as we are. Put a little bit of fresh ground black pepper into the polenta and my cauliflower rice. And add a little bit of salt to that as well. And let that kind of just... Yep. And so I'm just gonna let this go, and I'm gonna pause the camera, set the table, and get some plates out, and we'll be ready to eat in about 8 minutes. So I'll come back and show you the final plating. Okay, and here we are for the final plating and everything else. See my wonderful cauliflower rice with demi-glace. The creamy polenta is doing very good. All that cheese and butter and cream is melted in there. I have had a couple tastes for quality control just to make sure it's seasoned properly, but I won't be eating that. And our broccoli is just about perfectly steamed after having been turned off. So over here, I'm gonna let the sauce continue to boil a little bit. I'm gonna move this over to a cutting board. And I'm gonna get out this slicing knife and a fork. And we will be cutting into this so that I can plate it up. See, and right there, I know some people will say that that might be too rare. I'm talking to you, Lee Foster. However, I think that's about perfect. Some of the ones in the middle might be a little bit less cooked, so I'm gonna put those in the sauce. You can always do this for that last cut. And let that sit off to the side. A little bit more. I'm gonna have the middle pieces. But that is just about perfect in my book. So let me let that absorb some of that sauce. I'm gonna get a plate, and I'm gonna plate my wife's dinner on this. We're gonna put a little bit of the polenta right in the middle. Top it off with these drenched pieces of Chateaubriand. I'm gonna add some of the mushrooms. Like I said, there's chanterelles. Make sure she gets some morel right there on top. Some king trumpets, some pheasant backs, and everything. A little bit of that, more of that sauce right there. And then to make the plate look a little bit prettier, a couple pieces of cauliflower. Add and steamed. And a little bit of parsley, a sprig of thyme, and there we have Chateaubriand with a mushroom demi-glace sauce, some creamy grits, and lemon steamed broccoli. So, thank you for visiting my kitchen. I hope you come back, and I hope you try this. Bon appetit.